Welcome back to Brother Owl's Garden. I'm Brian, and I honor your presence here today. I'm glad you clicked the video today. I'd like to have kind of a heart-to-heart talk about something that's sort of a tender spot for most people. And I think that most people who are on this earth right now are experiencing this, are either suffering from this, afflicted by this, or are doing what they can to process their way through this and transcend this, and, shall we say, arrive at realization and transcendence. But even not to get that deep about it, what I want to talk about is being loved. And I mean that in a few different ways. First of all, it reminds me of a quote that my dear grandmother shared the month that she died. She was voted resident of the month at her care home where she was living at the time. And it was that month that she passed on. And I guess they said, would you like to share any words of wisdom or something? And she left something very, very simple. I would almost say deceptively simple. Let me explain. Her quote was, if you want to be loved, you have to be lovable. For those that don't live in 1,000-degree, 2,000,000% humidity climate, those are cicadas that you're hearing in the background. And they happen in mornings and dusk here in this greenhouse known as Thailand. So her quote, if you want to be loved, you have to be lovable. If you give no thought to it, you could brush that off and say, well, yeah, I guess, whatever, okay. No. I was talking with my dear brother Bob today, who has appeared on this channel a couple times for those who have seen his videos. Ineffably dear friend. And he said, as we were closing our conversation, you know, bud, he said, when we don't love ourselves, we make it hard for others to love us. Well, those, my friends, are the two sides of the self-same coin that we're talking about today. My grandmother said, if you want to be loved, you have to be lovable. My brother Bob said, when we don't love ourselves, we make it hard for others to love us. This is the same gem, just two facets of the same gem. And Bob's wife, Val, brilliant, brilliant woman, lucid. She recently shared with me something that came to her. We call it, I got a hit, I got a download, I got, revelation, whatever. I had an epiphany. And she said, I am love, I am loved, I am loving. Again, this could be, if we give it no consideration, deceptively, mistakenly simple. But instead, it's profound. It's simply profound, as well as profoundly simple. I love to invert those all the time, because they always apply. Whatever is simply profound is always profoundly simple, I've found. So, these three quotes, I'll refer to them only one more time in succession. If you want to be loved, you have to be lovable. When we don't love ourselves, we make it hard for others to love us. I am love. I am loved. I am loving. Put these three things together, we have a real triple gem there, as the Buddhists might call it. But we forget it all the time. And not only do we forget it, and by the way, I'm putting myself at the front of that line. and many others that I'll refer to in this chat. Definitely including, I'm speaking from my heart today with you. I'm speaking with you from my heart, not just about a topic. I am extremely guilty of forgetting this all the time, like constantly, even though I know that I know better. But I struggle with why am I not yet fully being the highest truths that I know? That's my personal struggle as a human being, where I'm at right now. One of them. And we not only forget, but we block, we decline, we swat away. We block ourselves from the love that is available to us. And the love that is available to us comes from, well, essentially three sources. One is family and friends around us. And two is, of course, God, however you wish to perceive God as being. Let's just always remember that God is essentially pure divine love. And whatever tradition, background, or imagery you prefer, that's up to you. You're free to do that. Our impression and our perception of God evolves as we do. So anyway, that's the obvious one, but the one that we sometimes tend to forget is our self, our own selves. So those three sources, let's just say community, divinity, and ourselves, from our inner being. Now, we've heard, oh, God loves you, Jesus loves you, God loves you. Okay, well, do you really understand that? Do you believe that? Do you accept that? Do you accept or reject the reality that the absolute, infinite, supreme entity whose very essence is pure divine love loves you beyond your capacity to even comprehend? Do you accept or reject that? And please accept it, even if you can't get your head around it. Even if your ego intellect, the meddling intellect, or the vortex of something or other, as I call mine, even if that steps in and interferes profoundly. Oh, now we have the frogs, by the way. This is time to make whatever sounds you make, time of day for nature. So, knowing that that is absolutely true, even though we can't understand it with the intellect, and it's the wrong tool to examine all that with anyway, even knowing that conceptually, we not only forget it, we actually block it, we reject it. Why? Oh, well, the first thing is, that's too easy. That's too easy. I've got to make that more complicated. It can't be that easy. You mean I just am automatically loved beyond my ability to even comprehend? It's too easy. I feel an innate urge and a need and a requirement to earn it. Then I could be worthy. Because you see, I'm not worthy now. I don't deserve it, we tell ourselves, consciously and usually unconsciously. And by the way, the unconscious mind, as Carl Jung said, until it becomes conscious, will rule your life and you'll call it fate. The unconscious is exponentially more impacting and effectual upon our lives than our conscious mind. Conscious mind is like a few dusting of snowflakes on top of the tip of a tremendous iceberg that's 99.9% submerged below the deep. So that's what's really going on, is the unconscious. And unconsciously, unwittingly, unknowingly, unintentionally, unjudgmentally, we somehow, at some point in our lives, probably between the ages of 4 and 7, picked up this conclusory belief or statement or judgment, which is false and is complete BS. But we hang on to it, we make it so, that we are not worthy. Like Wayne's World. We're not worthy. We believe that we're not worthy, we're not deserving of love. So, that's a really nice sentiment, and thank you for the intention. But no, I really couldn't. You see, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. And I have had relationship experiences in what seems to be past lives at this point, where, for example, a girl would basically take the stance of, I can't possibly receive the love that you have for me because you just don't know how unlovable I actually am. If you knew everything about me, you wouldn't love me anymore. You see, because ultimately, when you know it all, when I bear it all, I'm actually unworthy. I'm not lovable. I don't deserve it. So I'm going to reject it by rejecting you. I'm going to put you out because you love me. Because I know better than you that I'm actually not worthy, and I don't even know how to receive this because I don't deserve it. Well, spoiler alert, this whole concept of unworthiness and undeserving is dust. There is no such thing in divinity. Now, in humanity, I'm not claiming that, but in divinity, with divine love, there is no such thing as worthiness and deserving. It's not a factor. It doesn't exist. It's not a consideration. Now, the ego intellect might say, oof, that's a relief because I wasn't worthy, but now it doesn't matter. No. You were never unworthy. You were never undeserving. And, there never was such a scale of measurement placed upon you anyway. Thomas Merton, the beloved American Trappist monk. If you don't know who he is, look into him. Father Thomas Merton. He was born in France, and or was it England? Excuse me. He was born in England and moved to the United States as a child. And he was a Trappist monk, meaning he was in the Cistercian order. He has a wonderful, beautiful quote that fits this exactly, and I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up. He said, "Our job is to love others without stopping to inquire whether or not they are worthy. That is not our business, and in fact, it's nobody's business. What we are asked to do is love, and this love itself will render both ourselves and our neighbors worthy." And again, which is even beyond the point of there really isn't a worthy. I saw a quote, I don't know whoever said it, and I saw it not too long ago, a couple years ago. "I have not come to heal you. I've come to love you. Love will heal you." I don't know where that came from. That had to come from divinity itself, no matter who transmitted that onto the internet. And I mean that literally. I'll say it again. I have not come to heal you. I've come to love you. Love will heal you. And as far as the blocking ourselves, everybody knows Rumi, Jalal ad-Din Rumi, the famous Turkish poet from Konya in Turkey. He said of this, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built up against it." And there's the sacred feminine at work. It's not about striving to get love. or to become worthy of getting other people to love you or earning God's love. It's not about that. Those things are already there. Look within yourself. Seek, find, and of course he implied release, which is also release yourself from all the barriers and blockages that you have built within yourself against it. And that goes back to what my dear friend Brother Bob said. When we don't love ourselves, we make it hard for others to love us, which is the flip side of what my beloved grandmother said. If you want to be loved, you have to be lovable, able to be loved. Don't block it. It's not about worthy. It's not about deserve. It's about receive what already is there for you. And I don't say this in judgment and condemnation. There's no shame and guilt intended here. Those are very toxic vibrations that we don't, whenever they come around, flick them right out. But in a rhetorical sense, I ask, who are we to deem ourselves unworthy of God's love? Who are we to declare that we do not deserve to have the love that has been already established for us by the supreme creator, sustainer, and all of existence? Yeah, I know you're the supreme is, and there is no higher anything than you, but thanks anyway. I actually, I'll pass, because in fact, I mean, I know me better than you do. I actually don't deserve it. So, but thanks for, anyway, for the intention. Woof. If you were an extremely self-loathing person, you would go into a deep revelation, a realization of shame and condemnation there, and because that seems like really arrogant. But I'm going to flip it and say, I thought that way a little bit at first too, and then I realized it's actually not arrogance, it's ignorance, unawareness. We forgot. We literally lost sight of it. Ignorance. Not now, if you choose to hold on to that, then it becomes ignorance. But the ignorance in the sense of unawareness, it's been lost to us. I'm going to close with sharing with you something that is very, very deeply personal. I may have touched on it in the past. I don't remember everything so perfectly, but there were 2 points in my life when I was basically I was stuck, paralyzed in a crossroads of my life. And a lot of people viewing will say, wow, that's right where I am at this moment, isn't it? That's most of the world right now is experiencing something to that effect, it seems to me. But in this particular example, I don't want to overdo it, but I will tell you that this literally happened to me exactly as I'm going to tell you. I'm not embellishing it or modifying it in any way. This is what happened. How you process it, that's you. So I was at a paralyzed crossroads in my life twice, many years apart. Pretty much the same thing came around again, and I was there again. And I got down on my knees and lowered myself, meaning I positioned myself in a position of humility, the very best that I could. And I pleaded with God. Please tell me what to do. What do you want me to do? Do I do this or do I do that? I'm absolutely paralyzed. I cannot choose. I do not know which one is right or wrong. And I just can't live with myself if I choose the wrong one, and yada, yada, yada. Now, I wouldn't do that now, but that's where I was then. Actually, those 2 instances. The second time, I knew better, but it was kind of like, I don't know how else to frame it. The first time, I was not consciously transcendent of that mindset of saying to God, I'm stuck. You tell me what to do because I can't choose. I'm just absolutely confused. So the second time I kind of knew better, but I wasn't quite ready to know how to move beyond that in dealing with the discernment. And I got an answer directly from divinity. Now, I'm not saying there was a large voice in the room where somebody over there was speaking to me, from a throne of flames, and it wasn't that. I did get an answer. The first time I dealt with this issue, I got an answer in about 3 minutes. And the second time I got an answer, it was 3 days. That is a statement, by the way, because the 3 days that I had to wait for the answer were what you would call a pregnant pause. I knew God was present. I was not separate or far from God in any way. Divinity within me, I in divinity. But there was sort of as well as nothing but love, but kind of you know better than this now. What are you doing? Come on. And here's the answer that I got both times. The core of the answer was this. Why do you think you need to earn my love? You can't. And you don't need to. And you have already, always had it. And you still do. And you will forever. There were other things that were specific to the topic that I was praying about. But that was you're asking me this question, but I'm going to answer you way down here. You're asking me humus on top of the topsoil level awareness, and I'm going to give you molten iron core of the earth depth answer. Because that's actually what's really going on, tectonically happening. And you're worried about dust devils on the surface. So, divinity within me arose up like a wellspring of cool water on a hot baked pile of bricks. I must have mentioned this in another video, but if I didn't, now I have. And the answer that I got was a revelation about divine love. And there it is. And divinity himself, herself, itself, divinity opened that to me, opened me to that, showed me, peeked through the veil and showed me that in a way that made sense to me. Why do you think you need to earn my love? Why do you think that it's necessary to complicate things and to earn and more than earn, strive and struggle and toil? Oh, then you really deserve it. Why do you have this notion of deserving and worthiness, and you have to work so hard to get it, and it's so rare and hard to get it? No. There's no such thing. You already have it. You always have. You always will. Why do we block ourselves from it? My friends, I don't claim to offer all the answers to everything in this channel. This channel is just, as I've said before, a platform for me to offer what I can from my own personal journey and evolution and unfolding. And I make an awful lot of mistakes, some that I don't want to talk about. I mess up all the time. But whatever I can get from my experiences, whatever gem I can grasp, I share with you. And that's what I've got to share with you today. Drop everything that blocks you from receiving the perfect divine love that is already yours and that you already are. And then it becomes a lot easier for everybody else around you to love you too, which you do want because you're being human. And no matter what lofty, noble, esoteric revelations we can discuss or grasp or even absorb into our being, at the end of the day, people are seeking connection, understanding, communion. And love is all of those things. So let's heed the advice of Jalal ad-Din Rumi and seek, find, and release all within us that blocks us or has been built up against the receiving of all that love that is already there. And let's remember Thomas Merton. Our job has nothing to do with deeming ourselves or anybody else worthy. There is no such thing. That's not our job. Thankfully, that's not our job. And also, it's unbased. Don't worry about worthy and deserving. Our task, our charge, our lot, our duty, our kuleana, is to love. And as Brother Bob said, you got to love yourself first, or it makes it hard for the other people to be able to love you. Because like my dear grandmother said, Grandma Isabel, if you want to be loved, you have to be lovable.